Thank you for tuning in to Love in Your Hands with Cynthia Clark, the podcast about how to live life with love, passion, and purpose. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to heal your emotional past, identify real compatibility, and find long-lasting love through the merging of ancient science, modern technology, and quantum physics. Tired of superficial connections? Start your free Soulmate Connection membership today at loveinyourhands.com. Now here's your host, Cynthia Clark, palm reading consultant, compatibility expert, and heart harmonizer. Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Cynthia Clark, and I want to start out today's episode with a quick look into our hands, because of course our hands tell us everything about who we are, and they can give us insights that we might not otherwise be aware of. So I want to talk about the thumb, okay? And you may be thinking, okay, what's up with that? Your thumb actually is your willpower, okay? It represents your willpower. And it also has a specific type of setting that sometimes shows up. We call it the CEO thumb. Okay, so if you are somebody who is better off working for yourself, chances are you will have this type of thumb. Okay, so it's actually going to be what we call a low set thumb. Okay, so if you look at your hand, you want to see how close does your thumb set next to the wrist. Okay, so the lower it sets, the more that you have the CEO thumb. Okay, now some people will have more of an average setting, like mine is actually kind of an average setting, or you could even be high set, which is going to be the opposite of the CEO thumb, and you're probably actually better off working for somebody else. But if you've got that low set thumb, that's the CEO thumb. And another thing that you can look at with your thumb is how far away is your thumb naturally want to be from your index finger. Okay, so we call this the spread. Okay, so if you have a really wide spread and you naturally want your thumb to be far away from your other fingers, that's what that is showing is that you want to be in charge of a lot of things. Okay, so in other words, if you're working for yourself, you can handle what we call a big garden. And people who are tighter, like if you really want to hug the rest of your hand with your thumb, that shows that you're completely overwhelmed and you really don't want to take on more responsibility than is absolutely necessary. So, and you may be somewhere in the middle too, which is fine. But if you want to take ownership and take charge of being more of that independent, in other words, increasing that willpower, go ahead and start to think about spreading your thumb away from your other fingers. And if you actually take a second and just do that and see how that feels, it's kind of an interesting exercise. So that is today's palm reading lesson. And now I'm really excited to bring in our guest for today. So we've got Connie Capiotis, and she holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's of science in competitive intelligence systems. She has over 20 years of experience in business and development marketing and has turned that education and experience into digital bridges, a coaching business focused on helping creatives, artists, and healers who are tired of working for the man to finding the tools and strategies to help them make their passion their profession. So thank you so much, Connie, for coming on the show today.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's just start out. I hear that you have an interesting story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that story and how you ended up where you are now?
Yeah. So when you were talking with me early on about how you like to talk to people about living their story and telling their story and living their life no matter their circumstances, my own personal story really came to mind. I actually founded my business smack dab in the middle of the biggest crisis of my life. And it's kind of a doozy. It really, it's funny watching people's emotional reactions to it. But about 5 years ago, I was about to get married for the second time, actually. And 5 days before the wedding was supposed to be held, my then fiance robbed a bank. He did it in a very sensational way. He actually used my vibrator to do so. And of course, the media went wild. It was wonderful viral fodder that went across the internet. We're 5 years out from it, and there's still something like 2 pages of Google stories that still exist on this.
Mm.
And this is so public. I mean, my boss found out, my coworkers found out, my clients all found out the same way I did on the news.
Wow. And I assume he was arrested and everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a journey through the whole thing. There were some mental health issues involved, and that was one of the factors for why I actually ended up staying with him for quite a while. We did actually get married. It was really quite a journey over the last 5 years or so. Um, but what I really found through it and what I share with people now is the resilience of that. And just the very fact that just control is an illusion. Control is an illusion. You absolutely never know what life is going to hand you. Um, but you will get through it. You can get through it, and you have everything within you to do so.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. Good advice. Because yeah, that must have just been like a complete shock. For,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was not someone, I mean, you think bank robber, you get kind of an image in your mind.
right.
And this was not that. I had been with this man for 2 years. We had been a family for 2 years. He has a son. We had been I mean, this is, he is a college educated graphic designer who loves nerdy Marvel comic stuff and playing Dungeons and Dragons. I
Mm.
mean, this is not a bad boy. This is not someone that's ever gotten in trouble a day in his life, really. Um, Beyond forgetting to pay the insurance on the car, you know what I mean? Silly stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
So to say that it came out of the blue is a little bit of an understatement. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like I literally watched my life blow up in front of my face. I mean, there was a literal explosion because he said that he had a bomb, and the bomb squad. There was a case in the back of his car that I know to be his harmonica case, right? But
mm-hmm.
I'm watching on the news as the robot goes in, pulls the harmonica case out of the back of his trunk of his car, sets it on the ground, and you hear a guy out of camera go, "Fire in the hole," and then boom. And
Mm.
it was just like it's a moment that will be burned into my brain forever, along with a million other moments from that time. But it's a heck of a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many people I've had say to me, if you can do that and you can found a business in the middle of that, there's really nothing that I can't tackle, and there's really nothing that I can't do. And that's why I choose to tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really, I can't tell you how many people have said to me, you know what I mean? If you can get through that, there's really nothing I can't get through.
Yeah, no kidding. Boy, and it's so good to look at it that way. You know, some people would go the opposite and use that as an excuse as to why they never did anything with their lives.
Oh yeah, my mom's probably pretty horrified that I'm so willing to put this out there. My mom would have me go the opposite direction, you know what I mean, and deny it ever happened.
Yeah.
Um, but it's such an integral part of who I am because of what happened, and also because if you Google me, it's there. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? It's not hard to make that connection, and so it's like I might as well just embrace this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I at least get to tell my side of it, and when you get up close to someone, it's really much harder to be judgmental because you find their humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all in this journey together here on
Yeah.
earth, and we all have stuff that happens.
Yeah. Do you think yeah, this was not on my bucket list. I've got a nice big bucket list. This was nowhere on it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the work that you were doing at the time. So what job or what work were you doing, and then what led you into the what you do now?
Yeah, at the time I was a full-time employee as a marketing manager, and I was doing consulting on the side and trying to build my consulting business. I started at 18 doing business development, sales, marketing, worked all through college, worked in banking for years. So I was always very ambitious in that respect, but I knew I wanted to work for myself. So my journey really wasn't all in one. It was like increments. And it started, with that entrepreneurial urge, you know what I mean? That yearning for more, that yearning to do something that's really going to satisfy my soul. And that's what I wasn't finding in corporate America. I found more of that working with business clients, but it still wasn't quite the right fit. And I've continued that path. Um, it's morphed into Digital Bridges Pittsburgh, which is coaching, education, training. I've amassed all of this knowledge in business development and technology, and I'll never forget this moment in the middle of a software development class, learning about agile software development. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is all the same stuff. This is all what we learned. This is the same thing we learned about marketing. This is the same thing we learned about business development. This is the same thing I've learned in every personal development book and class that I've ever taken. There's a process. So what I've done over the years is I've really honed that process, and I've developed the Digital Bridges method. Um, the biggest pivotal moment for me, I think, was I was laid off from a marketing position, and that wasn't uncommon. You know what I mean? When a smaller or mid-sized company starts to struggle financially, or whatever the case may be, whatever the reasoning may be, one of the first people to go tends to be marketing or a lower level salesperson, something like that. And I had just had it. I was tired of working for somebody else. I liked the challenge of small and mid-sized businesses, but it wasn't quite that soul level satisfaction that I was looking for. And I decided I can either spend my time looking for another job to work for somebody else, to not have them fully do the things that I recommend and have no way to change that. I didn't like that powerless feeling. Or I can spend my time on this idea of digital bridges and bringing technology tools and business skills to a broader sense of people. I like to say I used to help build companies, now I help build people. So that's one way to think about it. And, that was kind of that's it. I'm done. I could waste my time on job hunting and shooting out resumes, or I could spend my time building my own thing. And I'm now in the tail end of year 3, and Digital Bridges continues to evolve. And it's super exciting. And it's super exciting to watch the teenagers and young adults that I work with and the passion that they have, which is funny because it makes me very intolerant for the excuses that adults tend to make.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that adults sometimes have a hard time swallowing. It's actually easier to work with young people. They're less prone to excuses, believe it or not, and they often are more malleable.
Well, that kind of makes sense. I mean, they haven't had the same failures, or maybe they don't have as many responsibilities yet.
Well, and a lot of it's learned, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? And even what you just said about having the responsibilities,
yeah,
that's an excuse.
yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? You make time for the things that are important to you.
Right.
That's something that's been, proven in study after study, you know what I mean? And that's a very adult way to look at things. My teenagers are like, I'm just doing it. And that's something that I've kind of always been like. I've always been like, when I decide I want to do something, I want it like yesterday. Um, and I've always been very like, oh, I want to do this thing. Okay, I'm going to do it. Let's do it. So now I help people do their thing.
Hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, looking at people who are trying to make that transition, I think you're right. They sometimes can talk themselves out of it because
Yeah,
they have all these
all the
fears.
adulting.
Yeah, the fears and the stress and everything else. And, you know, what would you advise them? Like, would you tell them to just like look at it from maybe a different perspective, or what would you do?
That's a part of it. Perspective and mindset is definitely a major, major component of it. But there's kind of three recommendations I want to make. Number one is your path and your tools and your strategy to finding your personal success, your passion, whatever it is for you, is going to look different. So be good with that. There's no prescription, which is the good news. So take the time to figure out the systems, the structures, the things that are going to work for you, and make sure you're taking a look at your life holistically. Because if there's things going on in your personal life that aren't working, it takes that much more energy away from your professional aspirations or your hobby aspirations, or however you decide to apply that. So take a look at your life in a holistic way. Number two, find someone to walk this path with. I tend to be very business oriented because it's my background, but find a coach, a mentor. Some people need therapy. Therapy is a little more about digging and resolving things from the past. But find somebody that can walk the path with you and help guide you through it. Because no matter how much experience you have, that person is going to help get you to the next level. I walked into doing a business with over 10, 15 years of business experience. I still have coaches. I still have mentors. I still have a number of people that I'm working with. I went through an incubator last year. I'm in a grow residency program now and a coaching program right now. Those supports are essential to your success. Don't shy away from them. And three, really rest assured that everything you need is already within you. And know from a very deep place that no matter what craziness life throws at you, exhibit A, life can get nuts. No matter what life throws at you, you already have what it takes to figure it out and take your next steps and be okay and be thriving.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, those are excellent points. So, yeah, and I agree with all of those. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, we're not in this by ourselves.
Absolutely.
We're not supposed to do this alone. And
Yeah, absolutely.
and you may know a lot, like the person who's listening, you may know a lot about your
Right.
expertise or whatever it is that you're thinking of doing. But yeah, you can just get so much farther and get there faster when you have a support system around you and you're supporting yourself, like you said, like
Absolutely.
that inner game has to be consistently nourished. I sort of
Absolutely.
think of it like food, like what are you feeding yourself?
I always say if you're not learning and growing, you're dying.
Mhm.
That's that's totally how I look at life in general. There's so much to explore, and it really nourishment is really a great word for it.
Yeah, so that's great advice. So tell us a little bit about your digital bridges methods. Like, tell us a little bit about that. I'm interested.
Yeah. Okay. So I take four skill set areas and integrate them into the development process. And what we come out with is basically your perfect plan for what lights you up and making that your priority, your profession, if that is your goal. So the four key skill sets, and these are things that I've found are often under taught, but are really, really key to being a thriving, successful person. One is technology skills, and that ranges from understanding like how these devices actually work, so that you can be a little bit more competent with them and more confident therefore with them. So I teach a little bit of like IT fundamentals in a way, that helps build people's confidence in their technology use. And then part of that process is then identifying the tools that are going to be important to you individually for your journey.
Mm, okay.
The second the second skill set is business skills and business development process, because when you understand um, business skills and you understand how businesses work, number one, you can run your own business better, and we can get you into running your own business if that is what you want to do. But you're also able to thrive in a business driven economy and understand even things in a political nature in a better way, because you understand more about business and how that works and the development process that you can apply across other areas of your life.
Mm,
So then the third step is emotional intelligence. And this is where we talk about things like, how do you manage your personal relationships? How do you manage your professional relationships? Where can you grow in those areas? And there are 5 principles of emotional intelligence that are really, they've been shown to be the biggest indicators. Emotional intelligence is a bigger indicator than intelligence IQ when it comes to somebody's success. But we don't often teach it in a school environment, or even it's like we expect people to just know these things and just learn these things through the process of growing up, but
right.
that's not how it works.
No, not. I yes, that's been my experience as well.
Right. We don't teach these things. We just expect people to like learn it through osmosis, but that's not how it works. And it's also a journey. That's another thing. Your emotional intelligence is a journey that's going to ebb and flow depending on what's going on in your life. Trust me, during that awful period of my life, some of this was not pretty. You know what I mean? Right.
Must have been horrible.
Right. So, well, it was quite a ride. Like, I'm a tough cookie.
Yeah, you're a
Uh,
survivor.
but it ebbs and flows, you know what I mean? So it's a journey. You never really stop learning that emotional intelligence skills. So I try to talk about that and, bring that into the process of us figuring out what is your perfect path.
Mm,
And then the fourth one is social media influence, which kind of brings all 3 of the other ones together, because pretty much everybody's on social media. We're all on whatever our preferred platforms are. So we want to be thinking about what we're putting out on our social media, and is it giving a really accurate picture of who you are? What are you saying to people? It's a little bit of branding. It's a lot of emotional intelligence, and how do you handle certain things online? And what if somebody misreads something you say, or you say something that you didn't think was offensive, but it became a thing? You know what I mean?
mm,
What do you do? How do you navigate those things? Emotional intelligence. So that fourth piece of social media influence really brings together the technology, the business skills, and the emotional intelligence in a whole package.
mm. Yeah, that sounds really good. People need people need all of those things. That's
Right.
business.
But we don't teach them. But we
Yeah.
don't teach them. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's getting classes in emotional intelligence unless you seek them out. You know what I mean? There are programs and, coaches and stuff that teach stuff like this, but it's not part of someone's typical experience. And not nobody goes to school for psychology and business and technology unless you're me and you're crazy, and I kind of did.
Yeah, no, you're right. Most people don't.
Right. So I teach people the fundamentals of these things and how to use them as tools to empower their lives.
Hmm. Well, that sounds terrific. So, do you work with people worldwide, or how do you work with people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a we are a mobile organization. I have volunteers that help as well, especially in my more nonprofit based endeavors. So yeah, we walk our talk. I have some computers that are, I have Chromebooks like the one I'm on right now, that we teach wherever we can. I can zoom in or, use whatever service somebody is comfortable with to communicate with them. So yeah, I will, because of technology, we are able to help anyone. We do, my favorite is the coaching, because I love sitting down with somebody one-on-one and having that what lights you up conversation. So that's my absolute favorite. But we also do trainings and workshops that are great for organizations, for businesses, for team building. So what we really do is structure the content, structure these ideas, and we hand it to you however you need it handed to
That sounds great.
you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been really interesting, and I think it gives people a lot to think about, certainly if they're in that space of wanting to transition into their own business. So,
Yeah, find your passion. Find your
yeah,
passion.
yeah, and take the risk. I mean, ultimately,
Absolutely.
that's what you got to be willing to do. And you got to ask yourself, how much do I really want this?
Yeah.
And what am I tolerating? It's
Oh,
like,
that's one of my favorite lines. That's one. What am I tolerating? I say, be a little more impatient with yourself.
yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? Want a little more for yourself,
Yeah,
and that's going to look different for everybody. I'm not trying to push everybody out of their full-time jobs immediately.
no, yeah. If
You know
you
what I mean?
Yeah, it's not definitely not for everybody, but for those people who are listening to this going, yeah, I want more for myself.
Yeah.
I
I
want it-
want more passion. I want more. I want that soul level satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this life is all about. And, yeah, we all have challenges that we overcome.
Yeah.
It sounds like just matter.
Sometimes life hands you a doozy.
Yeah. Okay. So how do people reach you and how do they work with you?
Yeah, my website is digitalbridgespgh.org. It gives some information about the the programs, excuse me. You can also contact me there, or you can just reach out to me directly. My email is Connie, Connie, at digitalbridgespgh.org.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your sharing your story, and it's just been a lot of fun. And
Thanks so much.
and thanks everybody for tuning in. Remember that you can live the life that you want regardless of your story. So get out there and do it. And we'll catch you again really soon. Take care.